This is the Masonic Light Podcast featuring Pete Ruggieri and Larry Maris. A non-stuffy, somewhat humorous approach to understanding our craft. We guarantee you'll have a good time or your money back. This podcast is not endorsed or approved by the Grand Lodge or any jurisdiction. In fact, they'll probably hate it. And now, here's our host, Pete Ruggieri and Larry Maris.
Good morning and welcome back to the Masonic Podcast. And I'm Pete Ruggieri and Larry Maris is here. Say hi, Larry.
Yes, I am. Hi, Larry.
And we have a special guest with us today, Jason Lewis. We got Jason because he has an easy to say name, so that worked out really well for us. So we're going to get a little more into Jason later, but Jason, feel free to chime in as we're talking. We kind of have a half-assed format that we do. So usually first thing we do is we kind of recap what we've been doing over the past week or so. So what do you have going on, Larry?
Do you want Masonic or personal?
Your personal life's a train wreck, so anything is good.
Well, Goose and Gridiron met and had a big breakfast again last Thursday. And we discussed a lot of things and we accomplished a lot of things. Since all of us here are Goose and Gridiron members, didn't we?
We did. It was great.
Okay, so that was the big news there. Looking at, since we are expanding Goose and Gridiron, we're getting more people come to breakfast. We are choosing a different location for next Thursday. And I'll put that out for anybody that wants to come. And it doesn't matter if you're in Wilkes-Barre or Scranton. If you can make it here by 9 o'clock in the morning on Thursday, you're more than welcome.
So that was it, breakfast? Is that what you did last week was breakfast?
No, I will say that yesterday I drove over to Schuylkill County for an alumni reunion. It's almost my 55th, actually, high school reunion. Next year it will be. And met a lot of old friends, most of them Masons, by the way. And we had a great time. One of the things that made me feel good was I was not the oldest one there. There were a lot of people way older than me that were attending yesterday.
Weren't you all the same age in the same class?
Oh, in the same class, it's true. But this was an alumni reunion. So was any graduate of the school for the past 40, 50 years.
Well, it sounds just exciting.
Yeah.
Where did they stay at the Screen Door Motel? Or what's
no, it used to be the old Milk Bar Motel, but that kind of went out of business. So they have to stay at Fort Indian Town Gap or Pottsville or Millersburg or wherever. Yeah.
Sounds great.
Well, the idea was we got there. The social hour was from 2:30 to 4, and we ate dinner at 4, and we started leaving at 5. Because most of the people and residents in that Schuylkill County, Dauphin County area, essentially, they got to go home to milk the cows, and they want to be in bed by 7:30. So that's life where I came from.
Well, thank you for the extra sound effects there, Larry. We appreciate it. So, Jason, do you have anything exciting going on this past week Masonically?
Masonically? No, it was a pretty quiet week. Goose and Gridiron, and we're working on a new pin. So we'll have more details to follow, but working on a pin that anybody can purchase and maybe have some fundraising.
And you did have some personal stuff come up this past week, which I think is not very Masonic, but it's gosh darn interesting. So what is tell us about your real job?
Yeah, so by day, I sell guitars. I work for a small guitar company called S7G out of Ohio. I'm lucky enough to be related to the owner. It's my brother, and I get to stay here, but I do have to occasionally travel. So I was in Atlanta and Anderson, South Carolina on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday.
Did you see any kind of Masonic type buildings or anything?
I did. I saw what I believe was some pretty clandestine buildings, if you want to call it a building, but little ramshackle little buildings down in the southern part of Atlanta. But I did reach out to one of the district deputies and got invited to go witness a rehearsal for the third degree by a Scottish Rite Blue Lodge team, but that was impeded by my hotel hunt.
So yeah, you had originally said you stayed at a was it a Red Roof Inn?
Well, yeah, I was there for about 5 minutes.
So so tell us about what happened. What happened to scare you off of the Red Roof Inn?
So my smaller company, my travel budget isn't robust, and to be respectful of the travel budget, I try to stay hotels that are economically responsible. So I booked everything except the hotel. I don't know Atlanta very well. I figured I would get down there and talk to some of the guys in the music stores. What's a good area? So I found an area that appeared to be pretty well. And I get to my Red Roof Inn, and I think it was like Norcross area of Atlanta. I'm just pretty far out there. Start loading in, and I get my luggage, my book bag, all loaded in. I'm about to load in, $8,000 worth of guitars into the hotel room, and I have a gentleman, if you want to call him that, come up to me and start mumbling, and I immediately know that he's asking for change, but I can barely understand him. So I say, what are you asking? I don't understand what you're asking me. And finally, he says to me, "Listen, man, I don't know if you're gay or straight, but I need some money." And I immediately said, "Oh, okay." And we were joking at breakfast this morning that I should have told him that his Grand Lodge doesn't appreciate that. but instead, sorry, Georgia. But instead, I said no.
So $20 is $20, right? So
$20 is $20, and I did not pay the $20.
Oh, okay.
I just went into my room, locked the door, and called my wife, who said you should have gone for it. and I promptly packed my stuff back up in the car, and I left. And I called the front desk from down the street and got my money back. So
that's nice. Plus, everybody now knows how many guitars you have in your room, and
right, exactly, yeah. So if he was, I didn't want to go downtown. So I missed the degree rehearsal, but I didn't want to go down there and come back to my room and find my guitars are missing and a stranger in my bed.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so, wonderful.
Yeah,
I had nothing. I had nothing of Masonic goings on. Yesterday I was at a Kentucky Derby bar crawl, which is very short, but I guess it's the first of the 3 races, so it's going to be the shortest of the 3 bar crawls. Nothing really exciting. I am a member of the Honorable Order of Kentucky Colonels. I believe you are too.
Yeah, just. Yeah.
So I did wear my Colonel Sanders bow tie, a string tie. Said let everybody know to respect my authority. And that's it. I had some other bitching and moaning this week. I'll talk about later when we get to when we talk about secretaries. But I think we'll hold off on that. So, Larry, do you have anything else before we go to a short break and come back with our official guest?
Actually, no, I don't, Pete. I'm studying the agenda here, and I'm still stuck on something. So, no, I'm good.
I don't want to get you too far off your 18-break agenda. All right, so we're going to go for a quick break here, and we'll come back with Jason Lewis and talk about Freemasonry, millennials, and participation ribbons.
The Masonic Light Podcast is sponsored by MasonicScarves.com, home of unique Masonic-themed soccer scarves. Our scarves aren't printed. All of the artwork is knitted into the design. We can also do custom-made designs featuring your local lodge or commemorating an event. These make a great gift for visitors, members, or for fundraising. Visit our website at MasonicScarves.com and click on the Shop Now button to see our full catalog. At checkout, use code PODCAST and you'll get $5 off per scarf. www.MasonicScarves.com.
Okay, we're back. So Larry made it back from his first bathroom break, so we're all happy. Now's the point where he wants to try and beg for money. He sounds like Sally Struthers with a couple of pencils here asking for Masonic sales. But if you do want to ever be on the show, we'd be happy to put your commercial on the show. We've got a voiceover guy that works for $5. So it's cheap.
And not only that, you're a Freemason and you've got some interesting stories that you can tell. We'll not only do your advertising for you at a cost, of course, but we'll invite you on the show, and you get the best of all worlds.
And all 7 of our listeners will listen to what you have to say.
7 of them, okay.
I think we're up to 7.
Yeah, we got 2 in England. I know that.
Well, they don't count. So our first guest and our only guest once again is Jason Lewis, and Jason, you are a member of Lodge 43.
Yep.
In Lancaster, Pennsylvania, which is a very, very old lodge. Larry and our lodge actually was formed out of Lodge 43.
Yep.
When they had too many members back in the 1800s, we kind of spawned off. So, what you mentioned you sell guitars, and we put a picture up on the site, and you got tattoos. You're kind of like not the stereotypical looking nerdy kind of Mason that we know and love. So what kind of got you into Freemasonry?
Man, well, I grew up in Erie, PA, much like your guest last week, even though we never crossed paths. But I grew up in Erie, and in Erie there's a Shriners Hospital, so Freemasonry was very visible. Everybody knew about Freemasonry. Didn't have anybody in my family, at least that I knew of, that was a Mason. And my dad's side of the family was Catholic, so there was Knights of Columbus stuff happening, and but nothing on my mom's side of the family. I grew up in my mom's house, and at one point I had found a cousin that was a Mason, and he owned a bar, so we would have a few conversations here and there, but honestly I was more interested in playing rock and roll and getting drunk. So I moved to Philadelphia, hooked up with Guitar Center. I worked with Guitar Center, a big retailer, for years. That's how I ended up out here in Lancaster. And it was funny. I had a really good friend here, and we kind of had a falling out, and my kids were really close to him as well. So, they told, said, we really miss Uncle Jay. Can you figure it out? You guys are grown men, and bury the hatchet. So we did. And we started, getting back together and have some dinner with the family. And I heard through the grapevine that, I was like, wait a minute, I heard that you joined a Masonic lodge. What is that all about? And we met over coffee. I mean, that was on a Friday. We met for coffee on Sunday, and my petition was in on a Monday. So, it was something that I had always been interested in, but it was kind of out of sight, out of mind as I was working on my career. I also had got real sick at some point and have, made a full recovery there. But just Freemasonry wasn't something that was even on the radar until, it kind of rekindled the relationship with a buddy of mine. And here we are. And he couldn't even sign my petition. He was just getting his degrees at the moment. He wasn't a Master Mason yet. So that was it. So what? So I guess that was kind of like, so your friend is what kind of drew you in. Yeah. Now your lodge does have a lot of younger members. Yes.
So what would you attribute? What most Masonic circles people are talking about. What is how to attract younger members. Yeah. So we want to hear like your take on it.
Yeah, absolutely. When I was a general manager, we always kind of joked, when we talked about some diversity in the stores, we always talked about don't fall into the trap of hiring people just like you. It's very easy to hire people that are just like you. And, Masonry isn't necessarily bound by that same adage. And I think that, there are already some young folks in our lodge, and they attract their friends. So you get one or two young guys that are covered in tattoos into the lodge, and then all of a sudden, a year later, you have 15 guys that are covered in tattoos. Yeah, I'm covered in tattoos, but I'm not the only one. And I'm probably not the most covered one. So I think that, before I came on board, there was a few younger guys that, whether it be a connection through church or a connection through work that, got attracted and just, became exponential, younger guys coming into Lodge 43. And then I also think, there's been a lot of conversations, especially in a few other Masonic podcasts out there. You guys will have to do your homework and go dig them, and find them. But it's been a lot of conversation about the generational gap and how millennials and even young Gen Xers, some of their core values that kind of align with their generations can also be found in Freemasonry. Like they're individualistic, but they work really well on a team. Everything they do, needs some sort of meaning. And, the other respect. Millennials are all about respect. And I think that older generations' respect was earned, and millennials kind of expect it right out of the gate. And Masonry gives you that. I mean, the minute you join a lodge, you have hundreds and if not thousands of brothers that are, as we say, on the level. But the qualifications for friendship and respect are already there, just built into Freemasonry. So I think it's really attractive for young folks.
My mind stopped. My mind stopped at the tattoos. I'm still on that. I'm sorry, I didn't hear anything you said from that point on. You had mentioned you made a trip to Japan about a year ago.
My brother did, not me.
Not you.
Yeah.
You wanted to go, though.
Yeah.
And he brought up a topic that would actually, had you gone to Japan, you would have been a very special person because of the tattoo. You want to tell us about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, we do a lot of business in Japan. My brother, the CEO of our guitar company, was there in the spring, and we have an opportunity to possibly go in the fall. And, aside from having tattoos, I'm also, I'm a larger guy, pushing, 375 pounds. And, when he said my brother might come, meaning me, might come next, in November for the guitar show, they looked at him like he was crazy. And they said, well, how is Jason going to come? He's like, well, what do you mean? They're like, well, he's fat and he's covered in tattoos. And now we'll be a guest. We'll be at their booth. We won't be at ours. We'll just, they're distributor. So they carry a number of brands. And they said, if he's going to come into the booth, he needs to cover his tattoos. My brother's like, why? It's the 21st century. What's the matter with that? And there's still a stigma over there that, tattoos are associated with,
the Yakuza.
Well, either organized crime or just, seedy people in general, that the older generation that comes to do business with them will not even, Japanese people, from what I understand, are very, they don't say much, so they'll just avoid you. All right, so they'll walk past the booth, see the guy with the tattoos, and not come do any business. So they were very concerned about me coming over.
Well, maybe you can go and stand in the Gibson or Gretsch booth.
Maybe.
To kind of defer customers to yours.
That and the fact of being big, it's almost considered rude to be a big person in Japan because it's so populated that, how dare you take up the space of, 3 people.
Well, that's probably the most American thing we have going for us.
Right. So, the invitation is still there. We just, I have to go in long sleeves at their request. And it's their booth, so I'll do whatever they want. Or I'll stay home.
Well, that sounds fun. I do have to say, one of my things I talked about, Lodge 43, besides having a lot of younger members, a lot of the younger members, they have been hit by this plague of the hipster virus. And for years, I was always anti-hipster. And the guys made me so angry because the guys that are in the lodge are really good Masons. And I found that I could not be mad at them.
Yeah.
I wanted to grab people by their man bun and be a hateful bigot towards something I just don't understand, like every old grumpy person. But these guys are so dedicated to the lodge and they're such good Masons. I'm like, damn it, I'm the bad person.
Yeah.
So
it's interesting. I another belief that I have, especially with the younger guys coming in, there's a lot of talk about, well, this generation, is probably going to be the first generation that's not as well off as their parents. And you have a lot of guys coming in that, are early on in their career, or they don't have, the financial stability that you would think of a Mason, 40, 50 years ago. And they don't have anything. And then you walk into a lodge like 43 where we have, these amazing antiques. We have, James Buchanan's Bibles and correspondence and medals. And, we have, it's something that they immediately, they get, if they want, they can get a key to the building. They can come in and they can be important and have these things that are theirs. They pay their dues. So it immediately becomes, assets of theirs that they may not ever have in their life. So I think it's really, really attractive to come in and be a part of an organization that's almost 300 years old and a lodge that's, a little over 200 years old.
You brought up a point about James Buchanan. And people who are not necessarily around from central Pennsylvania, particularly Lancaster, James Buchanan was a president of the United States.
Yep.
And his home is in historic Lancaster at the Wheatland Center, I believe it's called. It's a museum and so forth. And they built that, he built that long before current presidents get about $55 million to build their own. Yeah, so this one isn't anything like that. But you celebrated, I think once a year, you celebrate the Lodge 43 lays a wreath at...
It's either the Historical Society or one of the organizations around Lancaster that does, and we go. We don't participate, but we show up.
And you wear your tails, your bow ties, your aprons, your jewel.
Yep.
You do all of that. So it's a very, very kind of a very good very nice day that you spend out there.
Yeah, and we go and we we don't sit, we stand, and we don't really, like I said, we're not active participants. We just go there to show our respect.
And President Buchanan, incidentally, was a Freemason in Lodge 43.
Yep.
He was part of that rebel movement that almost got kicked out of the Grand Lodge way back in about the early 1800s.
Oh, they pulled his warrant for 3 days.
Yeah, they did. Yep. Yeah, they did. But he and his legalese and so forth went in and convinced them to put it back.
It's kind of neat because in Pennsylvania, like we talked about last week with Seth, Pennsylvania Masonry is designed not to be fun. It's totally dry. There's no alcohol in the buildings. But when you look at the old notes on the wall, signed by Buchanan when he was master, and authorizing 2 pints of brandy and authorizing cigars and booze for the meetings. That it's like, man, it would have been a lot more fun to be a Mason back then.
Yeah, I think he liked that little fun.
So your lodge is coming home 300th birthday?
No, we started in
had?
1785. So what are we, 230
Okay,
years?
but you have some big celebration coming up, don't you?
Well, this year is the 200th anniversary of Buchanan joining our lodge.
Okay.
So in honor of that, we got dispensation from Grand Lodge for our worshipful master to wear a white bow tie. Buchanan was never seen without his standard issue white bow tie. So we had a little presentation with our 50 and 60 year members. We also presented our master with a white bow tie. That's probably the most exciting thing that we have going on this year.
And we had talked about, jokingly about making a new degree, like kind of like a BS degree.
Absolutely.
And then, maybe that'd be the thing, like you could present a white bow tie at the end of the... But there were some interesting things. So tell us a little bit, I know you're not the be-all, end-all expert in history.
No, I'm not. But
so the dates are all going to be wrong, but sometime during the Civil War, I'll let you get finished.
Yeah, absolutely. So hopefully I can do our chaplain proud because this is his baby. But during the Civil War, the Confederates had come through and taken York, and they wanted to travel over to Lancaster to get access to Lancaster, Harrisburg, and most likely Philadelphia. And they had pushed the Union back over, essentially what is Route 462, the Columbia Bridge now. At the time, I think it was called the Wrightsville Bridge, but it was the only bridge. 30 wasn't around, obviously, so it was the only way to get over the Susquehanna. So they pushed us back. They pushed the Union back, and the Union bombed the bridge, and it was unsuccessful. So they decided to burn it down. So they burned down the bridge. The Confederates are stuck over on the York side, and all of the militia and all of the servicemen in Pennsylvania were on the other side of the shore. So, Buchanan had just left the office, and his home, Wheatland, was left unprotected. So there was nobody because everybody was over on the Susquehanna. So Lodge 43 got together all their firearms and their pitchforks and what have you, and actually stood guard at Wheatland while that conflict took place. And ultimately, burning that bridge saved Lancaster, but at the same time, 43 was protecting Wheatland. So we have a picnic, our first picnic this year, in honor of that on the Wheatland grounds. We worked with whoever the curators of Wheatland are now.
I understand, and I'm pretty sure by reading history that I did, that James Buchanan was never married.
No.
And that his sister performed... His niece.
His niece was his first lady.
Okay.
And there's a lot of rumors of Mr. Buchanan's... what team he was playing for, I guess, is
Georgia. He was playing on Georgia's team.
He probably would not be allowed to be a Mason in Georgia. Let's just say that. But he was. He's probably happy because he was always regarded as one of the worst presidents in the United States history, and arguably we've had a few recently that may be challenging him. I don't know, depending on your political affiliations.
Yeah, not a great president. Good Mason though.
Yeah, he was a good Mason.
Yeah.
And Larry's trying to signal for a potty break. I like how secretive he is about that.
I can't hold it any longer, guys. Please.
So we'll come back. We'll take a short break for Larry, and I'll see if I can get him a wide mouth Gatorade bottle, and we'll be right back.
Today, more than ever, the fate of nations is led by a cabal of individuals and corporations. From the price of gas and basic necessities continually escalating, people are feeling like puppets with a chosen few pulling the strings. In other words, follow the money. In a fascinating work of historical fiction, The Red Serpent chronicles how the rich and powerful have prevailed through the centuries of history. 5,000 years after Sumerians bury the greatest wealth of knowledge the world has ever known, traces of it surface in the 20th century, along with omens and executions. The Vatican is in a frenzy to possess it. A secret society will stop at nothing to control it, and innocent people are doomed by obscure connections with it. In a bizarre quirk of fate, an obsessed French policeman, an alluring philology professor, an ex-Mossad rabbi, and a powerful Jewish family join forces to solve a triad of ancient puzzles. They must battle their way through Europe, outwit assassins, and dodge overwhelming foes. But how do they convince governments to aid them in their quest? What if they run out of time? And can they pull off the phenomenon that will change civilization forever? The Red Serpent by Larry Maris is available at Amazon, Amazon Kindle, and Barnes & Noble, plus fine bookstores everywhere.
And we're back. Larry, did you wash your hands? Go back and wash your hands. So we're back here with Jason Lewis, and we were just talking about President Buchanan, York County. And actually, during the break, we were discussing how much we would like to burn that bridge right now again. Because
sorry, York.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I guess it goes back in history to England. Lancaster County is called the Red Rose City. York is called the White Rose City. So it goes back in history, the War of the Roses, and I guess we kind of always had a rivalry with York County because of that. Nowadays, they're known for shootings, and Lancaster's known for stabbings. So we kind of have that little rivalry going on. We're a little more hands-on. It might be that Pennsylvania Dutch work ethic we have that, but... So, Jason, one thing. So you've been a Mason for just over a year.
Yeah, not very long.
And we found out this morning that you must have made eye contact, and you are now secretary of your lodge.
I am now secretary of my
How in the
lodge,
hell did that happen?
Man, so when I joined, my friend Jay, who got me in, and like I said, he couldn't even be a recommender for me at the time, but he jumped right in line. And when I joined, he said, "Hey, by the way, there's the opening bottom rung officer position open for you, which is Tyler." And I was became a Master Mason in January, but my name was already on the bulletin as Tyler when I wasn't even a Master Mason yet. So I jumped right in. And everybody, "No, don't do it. You should just take your time." And which I have a lot of respect for that, for the guys that take their time and do Blue Lodge for a few years. For me, I would hate to spend, half a decade or a decade in one body and then realize that, man, all the fun is over in Grotto. So, I've joined as much stuff as I can this year. I'm not done, but I'm going to check everything off here pretty soon. So in any event, I was Tyler, and our secretary was struggling a little bit with some of the digital aspects, putting the notice together or getting some of the stuff that I could do very easily from home on my laptop for him. So I assumed the role of, Tyler and assistant secretary. And assistant secretary, I think, is becoming an unofficial, maybe soon to be official officer in Pennsylvania. At least I'm not speaking for Grand Lodge, but it kind of seems to have that vibe that it's an official.
Well, you kind of have
position.
like the secretaries tend to be kind of like the age of the crypt keeper.
Right. And
don't understand all the modern stuff.
Yeah.
And the younger guys understand the modern stuff, but don't understand the archaic ways of Freemasonry.
Exactly. Yeah. And, so 43 had, we had a long time secretary and before my time. And since his leaving, we've had 1 year secretaries over and over and over. So, it's a big job, and it's a lot of stuff to learn. And there's a secretary manual that's written in, Greek. And it doesn't really, there's no user's manual of how to do it. So I started helping. As every Pennsylvania secretary knows, we just recently switched from our old legacy system, that's pretty much a black screen and green letters, old computer system, to managing our database of membership in Salesforce.com.
What I find interesting is the fact that you've only been in for 2 years, right?
Not even, but
yeah, and yet they made you the secretary of the lodge. That's just usually not the biographical picture of your secretaries of lodges. Usually, they're past masters. They've been in there for 30 years. They're in their 60s. They're going to probably die as a secretary, or they're going to get so old they're going to forget things. That's happened. And you don't fit the profile of what a secretary of the lodge should be.
No, and I. When I started helping with some of the membership stuff, that's a world that Salesforce, even though Salesforce.com is a sales tool, it's really useful for what we do. And having run, not my own business, but running a large company, retail location, that skill set really helped in the secretary role, and it was a good fit. So then the question obviously came up, "Hey, do you want to do this next year?" And I said, "Sure, I'll give it a shot." And at the time I wasn't working for the guitar company, but I was working for a local magazine, and I was an independent contractor for them. So I was able to work from home and do magazine work and do secretary work. And there's no way that I would be able to do the secretary now if I didn't have the ability to work from home and set my own, my schedule's a little bit more rigid with work now, but it still has some flexibility to let me do this and do some other, I do a lot of other Masonic stuff as well. So
I tend to see, most secretaries fall into one of two categories. The one is the former past master or multiple past master of a lodge, and they run the show, and whoever the master, they just consider like a placeholder for the year, and then the secretary is the grumpy past master running the whole thing, and that's not great. The other option is I see secretaries that are completely like just scared to do anything, and they're relying on the master to tell them what to do, which isn't really that great because the masters come and go, and they don't really know what they're doing when they first get in there. So, yeah, God bless you. Good luck.
It's fun, and it's my first year, and I'm really close with our master now, so that it helps. Who knows what next year and a few years after are going to look like, but it's been okay for now.
Well, you'll have a period of about 2 or 3 years when actually they'll never want to replace you. You got to understand that. You could be there until your 60s and 70s, and you lose your mind.
Yeah, and I do want to go through the East. It's been known that I don't want to be there forever. I think that to get the lodge back to smooth sailing, I'll be there for a couple of years. And if I'm there for a couple of years, I just might go for the 6 so I can get my past secretary jewel. But in the meantime, I'm going through the line in lodge perfection. So
but incidentally, Jason, you don't really need to become past master. You're going to run the lodge anyway.
Well, yeah, from a recognition standpoint.
And for all you past masters and current masters, sorry.
I got to put my past grumpy past master hat on this week, and I had I butted heads with 2 separate secretaries this week. The secretary of our lodge. First thing is 2 people came up to me with petitions. So in Pennsylvania, we're still trying to be old school where we don't solicit. So if somebody comes up to you and asks you about Freemasonry, you help them out and you talk to them, you give them a petition. Well, magically, I got 2 petitions. So I wanted to bring them to the lodge, and I was told, well, you need to now have the full amount of the application, the petition fee, the first year's dues. So in our case, it's $325. You need to have that with the application. And I'm like, what? I've never done that before. I've probably brought in over 100 men into our fraternity, and I've never done that. So it's one of these supposed new rules. I just can't find it written anywhere. But I said, well, it's a really hard sell to tell somebody in May, I need you to give me $325. You don't have to come back to the building and get your degree till September. So we're going to hold on to your money for 4 months. So then you have to show up at a building with no windows. When you get there, we're going to take all your money and your valuables from you. We're going to make you dress in a silly outfit. And, hopefully you'll get your money, but, hopefully you'll get something out of this. Meanwhile, we're sitting on $1 million in our trust fund that, we really don't need the $325.
Right.
But anyway, we get that straidened out, and
I think that's a misinterpretation of the one-day class.
Yeah, so we got that straightened out, and then I've been going back and forth with the secretary of a chapter recently. Apparently, because I know what I'm doing with the internet and events, I've been asked to help out with a chapter table chapter. And apparently it's impossible for them to give me a list of the email addresses because I don't know, it must be like top secret. So, I set up the Eventbrite and everything, and, so back and forth all week. Nobody wants to help me. So I just,
from what I understand though, table chapter is going to be off site.
Yeah, well, I resigned from it. So.
Wow, gotcha.
I only need to offer to help 4 times and not get the help. Not nobody. Yeah, it's fine. I don't need to keep banging my head into that wall. So that's my exciting secretary battle this week. You never win.
No.
So that's good.
We're a tough bunch.
You know that as secretary you'll become omniscient and know everything.
Exactly.
So. Yep. Larry, what's next on our agenda? You're Mr. We're trying to follow your rules here.
I think we need to take a very short break.
Oh, my God.
Well, we got to do the newscast, and we're going to do that lead into it. So this is a great lead. So we'll be right back.
The Masonic Light Podcast is sponsored by MasonicScarves.com, home of unique Masonic-themed soccer scarves. Our scarves aren't printed. All of the artwork is knitted into the design. We can also do custom-made designs featuring your local lodge or commemorating an event. These make a great gift for visitors, members, or for fundraising. Visit our website at MasonicScarves.com and click on the Shop Now button to see our full catalog. At checkout, use code PODCAST and you'll get $5 off per scarf. www.MasonicScarves.com.
It's time for light news, all the news not fit to print in a worldwide global audience, which means if we piss people off, don't let us know. We're about to celebrate, or actually we have celebrated. This is really good because this is the meat of everything, the 240th anniversary of the Illuminati, a secret society that has actually now turned as an internet meme. According to the gospel of the internet, and we all know everything in the internet's true, if there's a triangle or a seeing eye, it's probably the Illuminati. There was an article written by a reporter, Mike Brown, back in May of this year, and it had mentioned that the founder and the one that wrote all the books and so forth, Adam Weishaupt, the founder of the Illuminati, probably never thought that his group would one day be associated with marijuana, Mountain Dew, Major League Gaming, and if you believe everything you read online, the Illuminati counts a boatload of big names in its ranks. Beyonce, Snoop Dogg, Lady Gaga. 240 years after its founding, the Illuminati now has a popular internet meme. If you go in there, they have millions and millions and millions of hits. People love conspiracies. Speaking of conspiracy, Weishaupt was a German philosopher that was born in 1748, and he was rumored to be an imposter who killed George Washington and replaced him as a U.S. president. He would surely have traded his spot in the $1 bill to score his own internet meme, which brought him more worldwide popularity than being president of the United States. Much of like the Illuminati itself, life works in mysterious ways. Happy birthday, Illuminati, whoever and wherever you are.
What the hell was that? So, I don't know. Whenever you watch like Dan Brown or you watch any of these movies, they always try to tie the Illuminati in with the Masons.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And unfortunately, I've never seen it. I've never seen anything. We can't even organize a breakfast or dinner chapter. We're not. I think world domination is a little over our pay grade. But hey, if I get to hang out and smoke weed with Snoop Dogg and Beyonce, I might be up for it.
Be a fun degree.
We've got
It would be a hell of a fun degree.
Got another news report here.
Oh, we can't wait.
Yeah. Mason leaks. Secrets of Masons spilled, French media to expose the highest ranking Masons. The Grand Lodge of Paris was targeted by hackers who stole thousands of secret documents. Then they sent those documents to journalists. Earlier this month, the French weekly magazine L'Express announced that they had the documents and would be sharing what they contained. The data dump is known as Mason leaks. Journalists say it can take months to complete a review of all the contents. The site contained a single chilling line about revelations of a secret government determining a new world order. So that Illuminati report wasn't too far off there, was it?
Really, I don't foresee the French being the leaders of anything.
Well, it's been long rumored that Masons have infiltrated the highest levels of government around the world and that they continue to shape public policy. But the idea that they are architects of a new world order, that's been highly criticized, and we all know can't be true. So Are the Masons a fraternal organization that gathers for fellowship, or do they have a deeply sinister purpose? French police are investigating the crime as a cyber attack, and criminal charges could ensue.
So, Larry, how could this even happen? I mean, who's got these? Who can hack into these very secure Masonic TRS-80 computers?
Well, you know, the French are really well known for their impenetrable barriers against their enemies.
I mean, I heard the Pope went to visit last week and they surrendered. So, like, they're not exactly known for their standing up. And but sorry, France.
That's all the news that's fit to print, not fit not to print this week. And again, thank our foreign correspondents for all the help that they've done. So that's it. Thanks for listening to the news.
Well, thank you, Larry. Thank you for whatever that was. And I'm still kind of in awe of that segment. Did your wife write that? Did your wife write that for you?
She helped.
Oh, I bet. Yeah. Okay. This is why my wife does not listen to the podcast.
No, my wife doesn't either. There's a reason for that.
So, Jason, what do you have coming up in the Masonic world or your personal world next little bit?
Oh man, meetings, stated meeting for 43 next week, and
we'll give a shout out to something. You were on the internet wearing a T-shirt the other day celebrating your rare disease that you have.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's make our 10 audience members make the disease a little less rare.
All right, cool.
What do you got?
So,
not what do you got?
what do you got? In 2000,
you didn't get that in Atlanta, did you?
No, I didn't get it in Atlanta. I should have gave it back in Atlanta. In 2009, I had a stroke, and I got diagnosed with a really rare brain disease called moya, which is Japanese.
Was that that's not the
It's
Billy?
Hawaiian, isn't it?
No.
Is that the Billy Idol song?
It might be.
Moya.
My understanding is it's Japanese for puff of smoke, which describes the imagery when they do your CAT scans and angiograms and all those tests. But basically, my internal carotid arteries have closed on themselves for no apparent reason, and I had 3% of the blood flow that I should have had on the left side of my brain and about 30 on the right. My left side's completely shut at this point, and my right is going to be shut in a few years, I would assume. So I had a couple life-saving surgeries. The disease is there's no cure. It's permanent. It's possibly terminal. But these surgeries, much like a heart bypass, my blood flow comes from off the side of my face through a hole in my skull and onto some healthy portion of my brain. So yeah, pretty crazy. Super rare, and affects a lot of kids from newborns and up into their teens, and tends to lay dormant and reappear in 30s and 40s. So, I'm definitely the adult demographic, but we're finding new cases. They're coming out of the woodwork. So we're finding out it's not as rare as we thought. But I think the doctors are starting to, see some of the cues and the clues and the symptoms, and being able to diagnose it a little bit quicker.
So right now they're just undiagnosing. They don't have any kind of treatments or any kind of thing?
No, just the surgery really is the only treatment. And there's a couple different procedures for these surgeries, but and there's some doctors out there that think that the surgeries don't work. That actually happened to me here. I was not kicked out, but they booted me out of LGH and said, there's nothing we can do for you. Go hug your kids and take an aspirin and cross your fingers. And I actually ended up going to Stanford Medical Center in California for my surgeries. Very much like a Discovery Channel, health crazy story. So yeah, but kids are getting diagnosed and treated all the time now. And, it's still a horrible disease, but there's some light at the end of the tunnel. But no, we haven't nailed down any kind of like genetic marker or being able to test other than doing an angiogram and seeing like the actual brain anatomy change. So,
wow.
Yeah.
It's always good to have a good depressing note at the end of our podcast.
It's good because, it's sad for the folks that are, that are afflicted with this disease, but we're a strong group and a nice internet community, and some of us that are more local, we get together and
was there like a number of how many people
that I know?
Yeah. Or just they estimate like how many people in America are suffering this?
They're saying it's anywhere between 1 to 2 million. So okay. Our main support group, if you want to join us on Facebook, World Moya Day, which was just passed. That was May 6th. And we're trying to make that official. But there's, I don't know, we've got to have 2,000-3,000 people that are a part of that online support group. And whenever we find somebody new, they try to connect it with somebody who's, like a more, I don't want to say more successful, but there's a lot of folks out there, myself included, that surgeries went really, really well, and our lives are pretty much back to normal. And we kind of act as a point of contact for people in our area if they need some support or want to meet somebody. So
yeah, it's definitely helpful. I didn't really understand support groups before until I had something. Yeah. I've got a very rare kind of thyroid cancer that doesn't respond to normal treatment. So, if I would have had this 10 years ago, I would have had 5 years to live. But, things have progressed enough that I'm in some clinical trials and, so I should be around long enough to torment you guys for a good long while. But,
Jeez.
But the, it is really nice when in these groups and you're seeing people that have been dealing with this thing for longer.
Right.
It's the success stories and there's bad stories too, but it's nice to have other people so you don't feel like you're all alone.
Yeah, absolutely.
Geez, I'm glad I don't have any of these kinds of problems, guys.
Yeah. Larry, you're more mechanical than human by now. I mean, like you got like artificial shoulders, hips. You got like a diesel engine in your heart. I don't know what's going on over there.
I don't think of it.
Okay. So if we're all alive next week, we'll be back for next week's show.
Yes.
Larry, you have any closing words?
Basically, what we want to do here is we do want to give a lot of thanks to our advertisers. By the way, the Red Serpent, tired of waiting for Dan Brown's next book? Get The Red Serpent by Larry Maris, which is a vibrant novel of action and international intrigue. Available in paperback at Amazon.
It's very vibrant.
Kindle for $3.99.
He's whispering scarves. So and the scarf business. So I have MasonicScarves.com. I've sold out of the regular Blue Lodge Masonic scarf. So if anybody's got an idea, I'd like to redo it, maybe make a limited edition every year. So it's got some artwork, send it in to me.
The Order of Eastern Star scarf is fantastic. It's beautiful.
Yeah, so we just, a brother named Jesse, who works with Eastern Star, ran into me a while back, I think at Masonic Week, and we've been in touch off and on, but he did a custom order of some Eastern Star scarves, and I decided to piggyback on the order a little bit, so just to kind of test the waters. So I've got 20 of those coming in. So if anybody wants one, go to MasonicScarves.com. You can pre-order. And if it looks like they're going to sell, I'll order a metric ass load of them.
Excellent.
I don't, Larry, when you're pointing and mouthing words, I don't know what you're saying.
You say green, Pete.
Oh, okay. I forgot his schedule.
Another special thanks to whoever Larry told me to thank.
Let's see. We want to thank our producer. He's known as the producer. And he also wants me to thank our director named Rocco. Rocco
Ruggieri. Yeah.
Rocco, he's a crazy 4-year-old Doberman.
By the way, he fell asleep with a tennis ball in his mouth.
That's his job.
I want to also thank our news director, Lima Blather, and our foreign correspondent, Nada Worthy, who takes her life in her hands every day.
I have no idea what this man talks about. So big thanks to Lancaster Podcast Studios, who lets us record in our downtown facility. And
also now, and finally, special thanks to the people who keep us out of trouble.
Possibly out of jail. Hey, what's really close to here is the former jail that makes Lancaster one of the most infamous places on earth.
Is that right?
The last of the Conestoga Indians were for their own safety, were gathered together and put in the jail that's less than a block from here. And of course, an angry mob called the Paxtang Boys decided to show up and massacred all of them. Seriously, another negative thing, but it's a little bit of Lancaster history nobody wants to talk about. We all want to talk, everything's like Amish and shoe fly pies. It's also genocide. So we've got that going for us.
So anyway, special thanks to the good folks at the law firm of Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe. And have a good day, Tom Magliozzi, wherever you are, my friend. Until next time, this is Larry Maris.
And this is Evil Pete. Thank you for listening. Thanks, Jason.